Everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Francis Kurupasheval. I'm the moderator of Silicon Valley Product Management. Today we have with us here a very special guest, Stephen Cohn. Stephen has been a serial entrepreneur. I've known him for the past 8-9 years, and he was very successful with this Validately product. Some of you might have already used it. He has multiple successful exits. Today is going to talk about the concept of outcome-focused design. So when I first read this title, I was also confused exactly what it is all about. So he's going to dive into it. He's going to teach us what that really means. And from there, he'll talk about his company and demo his product. So I'll shut up for now and I'll pass the baton to Stephen and he can take it from here. Go ahead, Stephen.
Great. Francis, thank you for having me on. And this brings back great memories because as you just mentioned, my last company was a company called Validately, which is a user research and UX testing platform. And when I first started it, one of my big kind of marketing opportunities was when you invited me to speak in front of your group. So we've known each other for a long time. That was a great meeting. This was back in the day. I don't know if you guys all remember back in the day when we could have in-person meetings. That was a good time way back when we were younger. No, I came out to the West Coast and had a really nice conversation with a bunch of people, and actually got a bunch of customers out of the meeting. And it was my early days of Validately. And as Francis was saying, I'm a multiple-time entrepreneur. Currently, the company I'm working on is my fourth company. I've sold my prior 3 companies. I'm a very product-focused founder. I've never actually been a product manager at a big company, but I'm a product-focused, founder. Obsess over product, obsess over design, obsess over user research and testing. So with my last company, I ran that company for over 8 years. We started. It was just 2 of us in a New York City Upper West Side apartment, and 2 developers in Poland. So I used to joke the 2 guys in the Upper West Side apartment was kind of like the New York version of the 2 guys in the garage, but that was where we were based in New York. And we slowly built that up. And one of the things that, I observed when I was running Validately, I sold the software as a SaaS product. I sold that product to UX design and UX research teams. Those are my core personas that we were selling to. Certainly, product managers use our product, but mostly it was focused on UX design, UX research. And one of the things that I observed when I was working with design teams is, and a lot of people in the industry, a lot of thought leaders talk about this, is that they very rarely, if ever, could tell you very specifically the impact of their design work. So they'll spend 6 to 8 weeks working on a design for a new feature, maybe even longer, research it, tons of user research, tons of prototypes, stakeholder feedback on prototypes, user feedback, usability tests, all kinds of stuff, work with the developers, get it built, ship it, and then they move on to that next thing. And they, almost never can actually understand the impact of that individual design effort that they did, whether it's a redesign of a specific user flow or a net new feature. Certainly, I found this interesting because certainly, product management has all kinds of product analytic tools, right? Every company I've ever spoken to has 1, if not 2 or 3 product analytic tools already in place, and they measure a lot of stuff. That a lot of companies have data science teams, work with marketing teams, product management teams to measure, what's being used in the product. But design teams, very rarely, if ever, and kind of another point of evidence from that is that if you ever look at a designer's portfolio, their online portfolio, it'll have great detail about all the stuff that they did, the research they did, the prototypes, the usability testing, the design, all that stuff. It never shows the impact, the outcome. And so, kind of the analogy that I like to give is imagine you're a chef, your job is to prepare great food that for your customers that come to a restaurant. But no one actually tells you what people order, whether they eat the food, what they think about it after they ate the food. They don't tell you what's going on with the ingredients. It's just, here's a menu, cook, make it taste good, right? As opposed to make look pretty. And how could that chef be as good as they can be? Some chefs figure out a way, and they'll look to the restaurant owner or the product owner in this analogy and say, well, are you happy? The product owner is happy, the restaurant owner is happy, but can they truly do their job as designers if they're not really directly measuring the impact of their work and understanding, good or bad, are people using the new design as the new design has the impact that it's supposed to have? And so when I sold Validately, I took some time off, but then I quickly jumped back in and I started talking to my former customer. And I said, let me ask you a question. Do you guys measure the impact of your work? Is this like, am I off base here? And almost, and I interviewed over 200 companies, big, small agencies, startups, big companies, et cetera, et cetera. And 95 to 98%.
And I want to interrupt Stephen and make this point known to all the entrepreneurs here. He really did speak to 200 companies. That's the homework you need to do. So there's a lot of people who try to be entrepreneurs and they don't do enough company and product research. And this customer research, this is such an important topic here, right? 200 companies is a ton of time, ton of effort. So keep that in the back of your minds, guys. Please continue.
Yeah, I can hit in that in a little bit later. Customer discovery is so important. And so I spent over 4 months literally just talking to companies, understanding, and they would say the conversations went the exact same way. And I'd say, do you measure the impact of design? And they say no. I said, well, does your company have product analytic tools? Oh, of course we have this one and that one, and we have like 2 or 3. And I said, well, did your design team ever log in and use it? And they say, well, not really. And I said, well, why not? Why not? Why does your design team not log into that analytic tool, and measure the impact of their work? And the answer was basically it came down to those products were not designed with the core persona being a designer, design researcher. Designers are not typically heavily quantitative analytical people. They're qualitative, just by nature, just in general. Like if we're drawing generalizations, but those tools are designed for the quant user. They're designed for the power analytics person that wants to slice and dice the data in all kinds of different ways. And so with all that type of flexibility comes complexity. And with that complexity creates friction for the user. And that friction has gotten in the way in 3 specific areas. The first area is almost all of those tools basically require some sort of developer support. So whether it's custom tagging or SQL queries or something like that, design teams struggle to get access and prioritization for what they want from developers unless it's in the roadmap. Point 2, the complexity of the user experience for these tools was overwhelming to non-quant user personas. So they would log in, they'd go through training, and it was very hard, and there's a lot of friction in actually using the product. Point 3, actually going back to that first point, because it required tagging, you had to know in advance what you wanted, and I had to be able to tag it up and track it. Well, sometimes you didn't figure it out properly, and then you have to wait for the data. You have to wait for the tagging to get put in place. And that created a lot of friction. And point 3, tying the specific metric to a specific design project had a lot of friction too, and usually required someone setting up a project dashboard. Well, that's someone else's that has to do that work. And by the time it gets done, you're already moved on to something else. And so that didn't work for how a designer works. And so, those products weren't aligned with how a designer thinks. And so what we did is how I believe in product development is once we've done the research, we've understood the problem, we understood why the problem exists, we understood the competitive landscape and why the competitive solutions didn't solve those problems. We then sat down as a small team and said, you know, how do we build an elegant solution? We started prototyping, testing that prototype with customers, built an MVP, and we are currently in beta testing with our MVP, kind of early customer testing. So let me show you some of the product, and then I'm going to show you some of the new stuff that we're going to be working on. Oh, host disable participant screen sharing. Gotta under the security button.
Can you try now, Stephen?
Yep, got it. Thank you. Okay, great. Okay, the name of our company is ImpactProduct, and that's not just a proper noun; it's a call to action. So it's a goal, right? It's an aspiration. We want to show the impact that design has on product. We want to connect design projects to business outcomes to understand the impact that they have, but also demonstrate the power of UX to stakeholders. So the first thing that we did is we said, look, analytics has a tremendous amount of friction, specifically in two areas. One, requires heavy developer support. All those tools require heavy developer support. Two, the dashboards of these products is complex, it's overwhelming, it's intimidating, they're designed for the quant user. How do we make a simple user experience that aligns with our core user? So we did two things. First thing we said is no developer support. And so we track everything that happens in your product without any custom tagging or that you do. And the second thing we said is no dashboard. So the way our product works is it's a Chrome extension. And the way you get information is you open up the Chrome extension, you open up your product. So in my case, I want to get metrics on ImpactProduct.com. You select an element, and we give you a visual cue of what element you're about to select. Let's say the FAQ. And we give you those metrics. We start with engagement metrics, and then we also show task success metrics. So the engagement metrics we show right here are click events, uniques, and frequency, and then we have different time periods as well. You can add multiple elements. So let's see how many people clicked on the FAQ and the contact us. Okay, so I have, I have overlays of different elements, and I could hide them, and right. And I can add multiple elements. I can keep adding elements if I want to. Okay, so this is engagement. So the simplicity here is I don't have any dashboard. I just open up the Chrome extension. I click the select element, add element, and I click on the element that I want. Every button, link, or image, or video, or anything like that is automatically tracked in our system without any custom tagging. And the way we do that is you add one line of JavaScript to your site header. Okay, this JavaScript is one line, looks like this when you set it up. That JavaScript reads every click event that happens in your product. Okay, and we understand the element ID and the element path of that element when it's clicked. Now, there's no PII, so we don't know Jenny Smith at gmail.com clicked on it. And it's done asynchronously, so it doesn't impact site load. But the beauty of our approach is that we automatically track everything, and the data is sitting there waiting for you when you're ready to ask for that data. Okay, you don't have to worry about planning ahead and custom tagging and doing all that friction. It's all sitting there. You add one line of JavaScript to your site header, and we capture every click event, and all you have to do is point click, open up the Chrome extension. So not only is there single element or multi-element engagement, but we also have task success. So let's start with, let's say, people who click on the FAQ. Let's come over to the task flow. Oh, this one's already built here. Let's remove this here. Sorry, I just had a demo. Okay, so we wanted to make task building very simple. Okay, so all these other tools, creating funnels is a very complex process. You got to grab URLs. When we saw people, we watched people do it with these tools. It was a very kind of complex thing with a lot of tabs and stuff like that. We said, how do we simplify funnel building, task flow building? And so the way it works is you start with a specific element, and then you click add another step. So this case, we want to know the people who started with the FAQ and then clicked on the add to Chrome. Let's see if anything last month here. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone created that flow. So let's see. Let's get rid of the get rid of that, and let's add. Let's see. There we go. Add to Chrome. Okay, sorry, it took a second to load. So last month, 14 people went from the FAQ to the add to Chrome button. And then let's add another step here and see if they went to the contact us after that. It's going to take a second to calculate, and it'll show up. See here. Sorry, I think I must have refreshed there. Anyways, as you can see, we're in our beta period here. Let's go back to I'll go back to the add to Chrome button. Let's get rid of that step. Oh, there's the contact. Okay, finally. So finally. Okay, so 14 people went from the FAQ to the contact us last month. And what you can see is not only the uniques that go through the funnel, each step of the funnel, but also the completion rate for each step. There we go. Sorry. A little buggy here, of course, because it's a demo and I'm being recorded. That it's a little buggy. Let's see here. Let's refresh it and see what we can get. We get the uniques that go through a certain a step of the funnel. We get the completion rate, and we get the time on task. Okay, and so let's start. Let's go over here. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. The idea here is you have the ability to get task flow and engagement. We're early on in our product development, so we're working through some of that. It was a little quirky there. But the idea is that we've simplified the user experience. We've simplified the need for relying on development support, and taken away two of the biggest pain points that came out of our customer discovery work. So the last thing is the ability to connect output to outcomes. So this is just simple analytics. The question is, how do we then show the impact of our work? And for that, I'm going to flip over to a prototype because this is something that's coming soon, and it's in a design phase. But the idea here is, and I'm showing you a Figma prototype. The idea here is you'll be able to show a specific. You'll be able to set a specific launch date for a specific metric right here in our tool. And then we will automatically baseline whatever that metric is, in this case, the daily success rate. We'll be able to baseline that automatically for you the 30 days prior, and we'll be able to show you over time what happened. And we'll be able to create this and track this automatically. And all you have to do as a designer or a product development team is set that, set that date and set that time. And then we'll automatically track that.
So this is basically, I'm sorry to interrupt, Stephen. This is basically a time series capsule of the impact before, during, and after, primarily during the launch and after, to see how the impact is. Exactly.
Okay. One of the things that we're finding with our early teams is it's not just designers that are interested in this, but developers as well. In a lot of cases, developers don't even know the impact of their work. So they're cranking out code, putting out stories and stuff like that, but they don't often have a direct connection. Sure, they'll get quarterly update emails and stuff like that from product teams about they'll see the high level metrics are performing like this, and the engagement overall is performing like that. which is fine and important to see at the high level. But as an individual contributor, it's important for me to know the impact that I have and the connection that I have. And so the ability for teams to be able to tie this, and some of the things we're talking about in our roadmap is connecting stories or epics to metrics. And so as you would do multiple releases across different stories, you'd be able to actually see that overlay on the chart and see the impact of that. And then we'll also be able to automatically baseline the metric beforehand and show the impact of that change, right?
I have a question, Stephen. This is great. This is great. I got a question. So, I mean, almost all of us are using Jira, Confluence, AHA. I mean, these are common product management tools, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys are using something or the other. So, do you plan to release some kind of API around this so that right on the chart, on the display release dashboard of one of these tools, I can see how well it performed and how well it screwed up, whatever?
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly the vision, is to help you integrate with the tools that you guys use for product management to overlay the impact. It's really interesting because if you talk to, there's a lot of teams that do OKRs, for example. And it's really hard for a lot of them to actually trace the key results and connect the key results for what they do, with some of the work that they do. There's really no reason necessarily for that except for the complexity of the dashboards and the complexity of the setup and the configuration of all those other tools often require a data scientist or something like that to actually do the work. What we do is we just make it super simple. Okay. And so, the idea is to simplify the whole experience, point click, set a date, add it. We're having what's called an impact tab. So the impact tab is like when you do work to change to impact a metric, all you do is just set the date, right? At that point forward, we'll baseline the 30 days prior automatically, and we'll pick it up and track that metric going forward.
Fantastic. Yeah, I wish. So I spent a couple of years at Google as a marketing consultant building a specific tool. And I vividly remember thinking at that time, I wish I knew the impact of the things I was releasing. And I knew only the top level numbers like, the number of users went up, went down, went stay the same. I could never bring it down to what exactly was interesting on what I was doing for me to quantify the care abouts. As in, is it because I released a new dash? Is it because I released a new app that people could download things or upload things? Many different features, but I could never pinpoint it. And I think this particular tool will absolutely give me that kind of in-depth, deeper level impact metrics that I'm looking for.
Yeah, and the idea is simplicity, right? So the user experience is going to be so simple that you don't need to sit in. I've had teams tell me that they actually, product teams, do trainings, multi-hour long trainings of the analytics tool with some of their teammates.
Yeah.
And they still don't get it, and I mean, I've had design teams tell me that they've sat through product management giving them demos on their analytics tool 3 different times. And the designers all walk out of those meetings saying, I have no idea how to use that thing. It's just so complex. It's just over their head. And the reason why is because it's just not how, it's just not designed for kind of that persona. It's designed for a different persona and how that persona thinks and the complexity that they want. And so what we've tried to do is we stripped out a whole bunch of stuff and said, how do we focus on just the metrics that are important to understanding the impact on user experience, make it super simple, and then help you connect that metric to your work. And integrations with Jira and then all these other tools is exactly the direction we want to go in, because we want to connect, make it super easy to connect that. So let's say you have an epic. You can tie all the stories of an epic to a chart.
Yeah.
And as you do a release, multiple releases across those epics, we'll be able to actually, overlay some of the stories onto the chart automatically.
Because if I were to see a chart like this against for example, I released that map in the middle, the San Francisco running route map of Brett, for example, here, that will be invaluable. That will be like gold for me, right? Because I know the impact is right there. I mean, it took some time, but I can see a slight little uptick, and then it's starting to saturate. And I can see the projection, the estimation that you have there as well. So 14.9%. There's a trove of information here that I can, I can build off or to in
Yeah.
that particular perspective. And I think you have hit upon a gold mine here, I think, and it'll only depend on how well you're able to reach a larger audience, because the design community, and I had a few designers sign up today because, for several reasons, whatever. But, and I know some of these guys are, deep inside the design world, and they would be like enthralled to see an app like this, which is really like showing them the efficacy of what they're doing right there in front of their eyes.
Yeah. And to a couple points that you made. First of all, it's analytics within the context. So even if there's product management teams out there that are like, oh, look, and I use Mixpanel or I use this or something like that, that's fine. This is not necessarily, in a lot of cases, there's use cases that those tools provide that we won't provide, right? It's just, there's certain level of granularity that they can get into that we won't. But there's beauty in the simplicity, both for a product manager using it, but also for a product manager democratizing data and metrics and providing the tool for their design and development team that they can use with simplicity, which is simply to get the metrics and to be able to see the connection of their work, but also, as you pointed out, within context. So if I'm the designer for Strava and I can actually see the context, or the developer of the specific metric for this specific user flow, right, that I see. And the other thing we're going to do is have a discussion thread for each metric and for each thing. And so you'll be able to actually have that discussion within the context and see the metrics within that context of the actual product, as opposed to some sort of stock photography funnel chart. Right?
Yes.
That just kind of means nothing with a bunch of URLs off to the side. They're like, what does that URL mean? I don't know. I forget. I think it's this, but I don't remember. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to basically change the dynamic of how you use project analytics.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This is I think you like I said, you're on a, just like Validately, I see the thing happening all over again. You hit another really valuable app and tool, and I can see the future for you. It's like, I think finally we have one gentleman here, and this is Himanshu. Himanshu, can you hear and see us?
Holy shit, 3 people.
Himanshu, do you have any questions?
So Himanshu is a little bit late, but that's okay. I should have publicized it a little bit more. But Himanshu is a senior design consultant. He's really heavy into the design field. And so an app like this would be like intensely useful for folks in the design space. And so we have recorded this conversation, Himanshu, so you can take a look at it later. But it's almost time to log off. So I'm sorry about the timing confusion, but I will cut this video and I'll post it on the product management